Hey there, this is Joe Pryor, the virtual real estate team in Oklahoma, where we specialize in new construction for investors in the Oklahoma City and Tulsa market. It is Monday, and it is, it's the 25th, and that is about the end of this month. So things are moving really rapidly in 2025, but we have a lot of good news to share with you. Number one is bad news, that is good news, and that is the job market. So the job market was revised down. This is really what the Federal Reserve is looking at. There's two things they look at very closely, and that is jobs and also inflation. Now, on the inflation front, it ticked up barely from 2.6 to 2.7. So there was a speech in Jackson Hole, Wyoming by Jerome Powell, the Fed chief, and it was very dovish. And so the bond market has already reacted to this. Now, that's 25 basis points in September he's talking about. That's the Fed funds rate. But also the bond market, the adults in the room on the economy right now are reading the tea leaves and saying, okay, let's go ahead and lower rates. And that's really good news for you. Now, the second bit of good news is Mark Zandi, who's the chief economist of Moody's. And it's his job to really parse the data and say, this is what's good, this is what's bad. So he investigated the economies of all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And what he found, there were only 16 states in the United States right now that are growing. Now, the good news is one of them is Oklahoma, and this is the way it is every year. There are some states that are basically recessionary at this point, and there's some just stagnant, but we're still growing. So lower rates and growth are very important to you. Now, another thing that's happening right now is owner-occupants have already bought in great numbers because they want their children in school in the middle of August. And I always say this is the time that builders really step up with investors, especially our investors, because we know we have a ton of them. They know that we sell a lot of property, and so we're getting some great deals. Now, we're not the only ones. I want you to know about this, but the big builders and the two largest builders in the United States are in the Oklahoma City and Tulsa markets. And so what they can do is they can get a pool of loans. They can get, hey, we want $20 million worth of loans. We're going to give you $1 million up front to buy them down. In other words, they can buy them down further than you can, all right, because you're limited on how much a seller can contribute. So now what we have with just a couple of points on a buy down, we have fixed rates for investors at 5.125%. That's a 30-year fixed rate. That is fantastic. It makes the positive cash flow in both of our markets really glow. And you ought to look at some of these numbers. I'll be happy to send them to you. So builders typically can't do this. Builders are not big enough to be able to do that type of a volume. But we have, again, by far, the two biggest builders in the United States, and that is what they're doing. So single families right now, we got deals, not just on the interest rate, but also they're throwing in some other stuff for you. They really want your business. Now, finally, duplexes. We started the year with 4 duplex communities, and they've been selling like wildfire. In fact, 2 of these neighborhoods, which are good-sized neighborhoods, are completely sold out. We only have 2 left, and one of them is selling right now very quickly. These are $410,000 duplexes, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car per side. They're fantastic. They are deluxed out. Be happy to send you the standard feature sheet so you can see them. We average 4 years in terms of a tenant. We love that to eliminate vacancy. I tell you what, things are really going great in Oklahoma right now. If you're an investor, get a hold of us. We'll be happy to have a Zoom meeting with you. Be happy to send you information. This is your time.